Yes. We are live. It's 2025, and we're talking about de-escalation in the dungeon. Everything we talk about is consensual. We're adults. It's a lifestyle. Don't be a jerk. Don't judge. That's why you're alone. Welcome everybody to Your Kink Friends. My name is Panic, and I am here with, like, I can't say this enough. I'm here with decent kinky people, good kinky people. Seriously, I'm honored and thankful that these people are in our lives, my life, and you should be thankful that they are in the kink community. Tonight, we have a very, very, very special show. I'm thankful to that Catnip is here. Catnip boy from Mischief Manor. I talk about Mischief Manor all the time, and I say this place saved my life. It really did. I fell in love. I'm getting my life back together. I'm exercising more. I'm eating healthier. I treat people better. I do. I'm a better man because of Catnip and Mistress Schari and everybody at the Manor. I'm saying that now. Another thing I want to say before we begin on the show, because we're talking about stuff in the kink community, this show is about positivity. I don't talk shit about people, and I don't, cause problems. I solve them. So let's not mention any names specifically. Worry about things like libel or harassment or any of that stuff or bullying. We're not bullies. We're cool. We're kind. We're open-minded, right?
We're not going to start any drama.
Yes. YCAF weekends, we have Anna Valentina, Miztress Claudia, and our guest of honor, Catnip from Mistress Manor. How's everybody doing? Let's start around the room. Catnip, what's inspiring you these days?
What's inspiring? Is that what you said?
Yeah, what's inspiring you these days, Catnip?
Cats.
Yeah. I send
me,
pictures of cats. My OCD, I text pictures like cat memes all day long to Catnip, and I hope he's not annoyed by me. I'm just trying to spread joy, my friend.
No. But other than just doing good, because I work in social services, I work in mental health. I'm going back to school, so just being able to give back to communities and people is really what usually inspires me.
Yeah, you're here.
And I have to admit, it inspires me. Seriously. You know me, my mind is going crazy. But energy does inspires things to do at the Manor and also in your advice as well. So let's get on to it. First of all, I want an update on Daisy, the dominatrix's dog. Mistress Claudia, let's talk about de-escalating situations. Before we get into the dungeon, there was the desert, and Mistress Claudia found a dog. Please tell us about Daisy and let us know the update.
If you want to see her really quick, she's right at my feet.
Well, of course.
Hello. Daisy is saying hello to the YKF community. Hello. Bye-bye. Here you go, Boom.
Hi, Daisy.
See, that's what I'm talking. How many pounds was Daisy when you first found her?
She was like,
how many pounds?
Maybe like 2 pounds. I mean, she should be probably 15 pounds. She's abnormally underweight, undersized.
Oh.
She's so cute.
Yeah, she is.
All right, let's get down to business. Catnip, how do you handle a new kinkster with the frenzy? They come into the dungeon. Oh my God, this is the best thing. I want to get involved anymore. I want to talk. Oh my God, I got the kink frenzy. I've had it. You've had it. We've all had it. But now we got to deal with people who are just getting it. How do you deal with it?
I mean, I think it depends upon obviously the kinkster and your relationship with them. Because I'm not gonna see somebody who's in a frenzy like that I'm not like super knowledgeable of or like I know really well and like intercede, because that's to me, like that would be crossing a boundary because they didn't ask me. But if I knew somebody who was like I was mutual friends with, that they were also friends with, I might be like, hey, I noticed so and so might be going through like kind of like, you know, a frenzy. Like, have you discussed with them like X, Y, and Z, or do they need somebody to talk to about this kind of stuff? With friends, like I really just, you know, definitely use like that active listening, you know, and like the figuring out like where they're at and validate that like, hey, they want to experience all these things, but like also explain that what we're doing is altering like chemistry in our head, you know, like the dopamine, the serotonin, like all that stuff, like it's all good stuff, but it can make us you know, a little not think straight, I guess you could say. So I usually just kind of like talk to them about like taking their time. Like you have the rest of your life to figure out what you like and what you don't like. Like you don't have to do it all in one weekend, you know? So I really find it's about knowing the individual person and knowing your place, kind of a thing.
Yeah, you don't have to do it all in one weekend. And part of the fun, I always say, like calming myself down. Like part of the fun is the slowness of it. You know, think about it. The slowness and of kink and the deliberateness of it. I mean, if you embrace that, it makes it even more fun. Anyway, what do you do when someone's visibly upset, visibly uncomfortable? Maybe they're not expressing themselves, but you can tell. What do you do? How do you intervene?
So again, like it depends upon the situation. If we're talking in like a dungeon situation, and like maybe you're a dungeon monitor, you know, you want to approach the situation calmly and, you know, prepared for whatever you're going to get into, but also knowing that you don't want to you want to approach the dom or the top first to see if they need help, because a lot of times when you're dealing with like emotional concerns or emotional like a vulnerability, like individuals who are in that state aren't going to want some stranger to come up to them, you know, because that could trigger something else. But you know, you really want to just kind of, if you know the person and you have the what's the word, like you have the consent basically to approach that, because obviously we know not to intervene or interrupt scenes when they're happening. You approach them calmly, you kind of mentally prepare for what you need to work on with that person. You want to use empathy with them, and a lot of validation. It's soft tones in your voice. You respect their boundaries, so you don't touch them unless you get their permission. But like if you're in a scene, or you know, you're with somebody one-on-one, as the person who is already in that conversation, I say like you should really you should negotiate, have like a emotional negotiation prior to the scene. So part of your negotiation, you should negotiate, well, what is it going to look like when I go nonverbal? What is it going to look like if I'm having a flashback? What are the things that I need to have around me? So have your emotional care, like aftercare bag, you know, like, do I need fidgets with me? Do I need like a warm, cold compress with me? So like those are all things like you should really do prior to going into the scene. You know, so as the top, you know, when you're dealing with somebody who's having uncomfortable or emotional moment, you also want to know like different grounding techniques. You know, like you just want to have like your own arsenal of emotional stuff that is similar to like the arsenal of like, oh, well, what if I'm, you know, whipping someone and I break skin? I have Band-Aids and, you know, I have, you know, Neosporin and all that kind of stuff. You want to have that for like the emotional end. But the only way to know that for your partner is to have that conversation prior.
So I like to fool around with AI because, you know, the world is falling apart and technology is bringing us right there. So I went into Grok, of all places, to say, what are some phrases to use to de-escalate situations? So I want to run them by you to let you know what they think, because this is what society is saying that what we should do. Okay.
Okay.
So, all right. Let's take a moment. How are you feeling? How do you feel about that?
I mean, I think it's not bad. Like, let's take a moment is like recentering, you know.
Yeah.
I personally am not a big fan of how you're feeling, like the how are you feeling sentence, because
Wording.
like not everybody knows how to put words to feelings. And a lot of times when you're in that vulnerable space, there is no way to verbalize that because you're highly, you know, so you might want to you know, figure out other ways to get that, you know. But I think for me, if Mistress Schari was to ask how are you feeling, that wouldn't work. But like for me to ask maybe Nick would have a lot easier time. So like it's
I would have a lot to say.
Yeah. So I don't
I'll give you
necessarily think
details.
it's a bad sentence. I just think it depends upon the person.
Miztress Claudia or Anna Valentina, what do you think about this? If you have a situation in your dungeon, do you think that this is the right? Let's take a moment. How are you feeling?
Mistress Claudia, do you want to go first? Here.
I cut out for a moment. What was the question?
So there are phrases that Grok says, that Grok suggests, which is AI, suggests that we use to de-escalate things in a BDSM setting. And the first one is, let's take a moment. How are you feeling? The second one, let's go to the second one. I'd like us to slow down for a sec, okay? This is Grok telling us what to say. Look at much. So how can we word this better? How can we how about yellow?
Are we okay?
Yeah.
This is just Claudia. You're still there?
Yeah, this is Claudia.
Okay.
Or anybody. Speak, anybody.
We're having like, I don't know if there's like a wind.
Yeah.
Am I here?
Yes, you are.
Yes. Now you are. Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Now. Yeah. I think there's a little bit of a lag.
Really, yeah, we're having a windstorm of some sort.
All right.
And a heat wave. The other quotes, I'll get to the question, but the other quotes is, can we check in? I want to make sure we're good. And then finally is, I'm noticing something. Can we talk for a minute? So what do you think of those interject? Those,
I mean, I think they're all good. I think they're harder to do in certain, like if you're just discussing like, you know, in a vanilla sense, they're very good, you know. But like you said, like you might want to initially if you're doing it in a scene, initially say yellow, because that will take the person kind of like sidestep from their headspace to know to follow it up with, hey, I'm noticing something. Can we talk for a minute? So like the yellow will be the flag, and then you follow it up with one of these questions instead of just like stopping flat and being like, how are you feeling?
I have a question for the DOMs. When a pre-negotiated boundary is violated, because you have negotiation is, I know, well, you negotiate right from the beginning. It's 101, right? So, but they break it, they violate it. What do you do, Anna? What do you do, Anna Valentina, when a pre-negotiated boundary is violated?
When they break it, like when they do something that I am not okay with? Is that what you're asking? Or
well, what I come to mind is, let's say if you're not allowed to touch anybody. Sometimes subs aren't allowed to touch, you know, and sometimes they can, or if you know, whipping, you know, on a certain area is bad, or using a certain tool is bad. Everyone's got a boundary, right? But some people get in the moment and they do it anyway. You know, sometimes it's sinister, sometimes it's unintentional. What do you do when that happens?
So if we're talking about like, okay, so that's like, I could do a few things. First of all, I want to address the previous question too about like, you know, say, hey, let me check in or something. And I actually do that, like when there's like a natural break, you know, when it's like we're taking a breath and it's not in the middle of especially an intense, but not in the middle of a psychological like rhythm, because you don't want to like, you know, just kind of like drop somebody out of that space, because they're gonna be like, I don't know, man, I was just here, or, you know, it's very confusing. But as far as like, yeah, when a pre-negotiated boundary is violated, and that goes both ways, you know, yeah, like you said, Nick, like touching, you know, and it's, again, it's usually not malicious or anything like that. They just forget, they get carried away, they forget where they are, etc. Like if sub were to touch me in a way that like I am not okay with or something, you know, I will address it firmly but calmly, and if they really are, I mean, I don't know if I've ever had this, but if they're really kind of just like, well, you know, just kind of, and I'll be like, all right, you know, call it, let's take it down a notch, we're going to call a break or something like that, where it's, you know, I'm not a cardboard cutout. I'm not just a figurehead. I'm a person, and my enjoyment and involvement in the scene is, you know, is an investment for me, and they need to realize that. They need to know that I am engaged as a full human being, and them doing this, you know, disrupts my pleasure and my engagement with this scene. And again, I don't think I've ever had somebody just, oh, okay, I have had a few people just kind of lose their shit, but that was not somebody being like, you know, an innocent mistake or something. That was, they were carrying something into the scene that they were wrestling with, and they did not, you know, in that case it was kind of almost deliberate, you know, and somebody brings in some baggage.
Dynamic is that like catnip's a little different because there are like multiple scenes going around, and so if one person violates, right, that has to be dealt with, and also it's like it has to be dealt with properly, you know what I mean? Yeah. Because there are other people around. So I mean, and I noticed that one thing that catnip has really set up in the situation is anyone who goes in there, first of all, is vetted. Everyone who goes there wants to be good, wants to be like a decent person, wants to be
yeah. Right? You don't want to lose privileges.
Yeah, and violating a pre-negotiated boundary is so. When someone violates a pre-negotiated boundary in the dungeon in front of somebody, which doesn't happen, I haven't seen that happen, and if it does, you hide it well, you know. But so, what do you do?
I mean, it depends. A lot of times if something happens, we often get it or get told about it after the fact. Because it's like, luckily enough, not something that is severe. So like, for example, somebody was coming down from a rope scene, looked like they were in distress, and then somebody, thinking that they were doing the right thing to try to help, intervened to be like, is everything okay? Do you need something? We didn't find out about that until afterwards, you know. So in that sense, I offered the person who had happened to like support, do you want to talk about it? What would you like me to do with the situation? How would you like us to handle it? You know, because if the person just wanted to let us know, then they just let us know. If they wanted us to actually do something further, then we do something further. And then we have the discussion with the person who committed the consent violation, or the boundary, or the consent crossing. We've only had one or two, I think, in-person incidences where it was like a by accident of breaking the skin with like knife play. You know, we took the person down right away, provided first aid, provided them with any type of, you know, stuff that they needed, discuss, you know, and that was like, the two people are in a dynamic, so they already had their own thing. So it wasn't necessarily somebody else coming in and, you know, doing something to the scene. But oftentimes, yeah, it's taking, you know, the two parties aside, knowing really what the person who is I don't want to say the victim because I don't see people as victims, but like the person who it happened to, how they would like this to go. Do you just want us to know what's going on? How would you like us to handle this? Do you want us to mediate something and then go in from there?
Yeah. Yeah, I think like I'm mainly speaking from my experience doing one-on-one sessions, but I have DM'd a couple times, and of course I've been to parties, you know, numerous times. And yeah, whenever I've seen people effectively handle a situation, it is calm, discreet. You isolate, you know, like you contain that violation, whatever. Catnip, you know, I hope this sounds right to you as far as, you know, the party environment particularly, because that's a whole thing right there. One time I had a dom really cross a boundary where like I left my sub, you know, we had like played for a bit and I left him alone, tied to a bondage bed. And then somebody came up to me after a bit and was like, yeah, she just took him into another room and is playing with him. And I was like, she didn't ask me, communicate with me. Like, he was clearly my date, my guest for that evening. And she just kind of like was like, oh, he's alone. He's unaccompanied. So I'm just going to go up and grab his leash. And he was like, he talked to me too. He was like, yeah, that was something. And I was like, oh my God. And of course I felt bad because I had left him alone, but also I was furious because that was so disrespectful. It was not okay. And it startled the hell out of him. And she was not the person that he had negotiated the scene with. You know, she just kind of came up and took over. And I was like, oh my God, dude. And, yeah, so I handled it with him. And then I had a brief discussion with her. And I was just like, hey, you know, like, I know that you're kind of new to the scene and everything, but like the reason that we have discussions with each other before the scene is because we are the people participating in that scene. You know, you were not part of that. You were not part of that negotiation. That's, you know, you didn't ask him consent. He was hooded and stuff. So he's like, what the fuck is going on? You know, and I was just like, but, you know, and you know, yeah, so it was just like all kinds of wrong. And yeah, so people do surprising stuff sometimes, and it always surprises me because I'm like, oh, everybody should understand this and it's a sacred thing. But yeah, that's not always what happens.
Now in the manor there are couples. I mean, I love it. It's awesome seeing everybody there, seeing the couples. But couples sometimes, you know, they fight and they argue. So catnip, it's a party setting. You know, keep in mind, just so that you both of you know, when there's not a dungeon going on, like there's always a dungeon setting going on, but in the other room, sometimes there's games, there's karaoke, there's trivia, there's like it's magical. It truly is. But so there are couples there. There are relationships. I was at a wedding, a beautiful wedding. Oh my God, it was amazing. But catnip, how do you handle couples fighting in a dungeon setting, in a munch party, in a munch setting, or a dungeon setting, or something like that?
So I'm going to be absolutely honest with you. I would probably get Mistress Schari.
Yeah, okay, that's. And I could see her handling it well too. Oh, shout out to Mistress Schari. I love you.
One, because she's much wiser than I, and two, I really don't like conflict. So you know, it depends. And it also depends upon the couple. So if it's a couple that we were really close with, we might, you know, I might have her talk to one party and I'll talk to the other party. But if it's especially like a couple that I really don't have a lot of knowledge of, and I know she might, I definitely will rely on her to kind of be the voice of reason in that. And then she'll bring me in if needed, if there's like something that's being discussed that I'm a little bit more inept to like to focus on. So luckily, like again, knock on wood, we haven't had any issues with couples at the manor. So like I haven't had to have that, you know, directly.
But what about polycules?
Oh,
What if a polycule breaks up?
God.
Well, yeah. So
If we got
one of the
polycules
things-
there.
we do have polycules. And there has been some. There's always some, you know, something happening.
There's a ripple effect
So
to that when that happens. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
because like especially when you're such a small community, like it's, I hate to use the word, but it's very incestuous. Like, you know, everybody knows each other, everybody's friends with each other, so like everybody knows everybody's business.
Yes.
But when there's an issue within a polycule, most of the time it's one of the individuals, the one that is either being targeted or like the one having the issue or being left out, that will come to like myself or Mistress Schari, and we'll just handle it, like I said, similar to the other situations. How do they want to, you know, to handle it? You just need an empathetic ear. You know, just really being there. I mean, it's really a matter of just common decency and like friendship rules, like, you know, just being there for someone.
Yeah.
There are times where we have people that after they break up, they'll reach out to us and be like, you know, so and so did X, Y, and Z to me, and I still want to come to your parties, but they're also attending parties. So we have a thing that like basically whoever signs up first and gets their ticket first, if the next person tries to sign up, we ask them to please skip that party for this time, so that each person can enjoy our environment without having to worry that the other person is there. Unless it's a serious consent violation, then that person who does the consent violation will be like, sorry, you're no longer allowed here. But if it's just like a rift between partners or exes, we try our best to provide the space that, you know what, if Sammy is here this weekend and you want to come next time, then we'll make sure we flip-flop.
How do people take that? Are they usually kind of pretty receptive and understanding, or are they kind of like pissy about it, or like?
Most people are actually like really understanding of it. Like they're pretty open and understanding that like, hey, like, yeah, this person didn't do anything to you or any of your group people. This is an issue between me and them. And as a business and as a community, you can't pick and choose.
Yeah.
So allowing that space, I think it becomes an issue when like, say, you know, there's a consent violation, and if somebody was like, well, they did X, Y, and Z, and we're like, well, we can't do anything about that, which we haven't had that situation. But most of the time people are pretty receptive and are like, you know what, that's fair. Like, I can't stop someone from enjoying a space, and I'm not always going to be there. So, you know.
Yeah. And it's kind of a, you know, it's kind of a jerk move to be like, no, I'm going to come to this. And it's also like, I feel like that really kind of, well, it kind of sets up for an embarrassing situation for the person who's insisting and so on, because they're not going to get a warm reception, you know, and it's going to be just like an awkward thing for them. So I guess maybe people do pick up on that probably, where they're like, oh, yeah, okay, you know, and yeah, that probably, yeah, that sounds like it would be more comfortable.
We've had situations. One sec, Nick. Sorry. We had situations where there have been one of the partners who purposely would RSVP on FetLife as like an intimidation factor. So that the other partner would see that like that they're going. And something that we really try to like put out on our thing is that our FetLife RSVP lists is not the RSVP list. We do everything through a third-party ticketing vendor.
Yeah, forbidden tickets.
So forbidden tickets. So if you see, you know, so and so on the list, just reach out to us because they probably didn't get a ticket.
Aha! Nice. That's really awesome of you guys to like really have such a a considerate and ordered and clean way to handle your traffic and your chemistry, because it really is so important to have that right energy and so on. And that's like, I kudos to you guys for really like having your hands in it, because it can't be simple all the time. So I admire your, dedication to providing a safe space for everybody. That's,
So my
we-
home. I live here. Like so.
Oh, yeah.
And
So,
please check
yeah.
out the tour. We did a whole show. Mistress Schari and I did a whole show when before we even opened up the manor as like a party space, and we're putting it together. It was, I mean, I'm trying to document the whole evolution. Now I want to ask a question for the group. We'll go around the room.
Okay.
You've all been to parties, events, munches, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
The kink community is very emotional. We have problems. Right? Like, we're trying to solve them. But like there are people who crash out.
Yeah.
There are people who crash out, and then, so depending on what they do, but let me ask you this. I know some of you personally have cut people off completely. Some people I know. And you know what I mean? On average, if someone messes up, can they come back? How, if they can, will they ever come back? Should they lose total hope in like ever coming back into the kink community or that scene? Or what advice would you give to them? Let's start off with Mistress Claudia.
Okay, can you guys hear me okay? Because
Yes.
I'm
Yeah.
having like a weird windstorm and it's like blowing all stuff away. I'm very when I deal, so I do mostly one-on-ones. I have been monitors to gatherings, et cetera, but when I like to negotiate with people prior to actually doing anything involving play. I like to communicate openly. In my personal sessions, before I start, I almost have like a consultation. Like I want to know everything from how they got into it. And I'm not one who watches the clock. I need to know who I am connecting with. And sometimes when it's your first meeting, you don't know the person. So my thing is I really like to openly communicate, hey, are there any things that trigger you? Is there anything that is totally off limits? Are there things that you would consider trying that you've never done before? But when it comes to someone who's supposed to be maybe not the submissive, maybe a dominant person, maybe a dom, maybe whatever, for me, when someone crosses the line and shows, to me, it's total like no regard. It's disrespect. It's not a oopsie if it's coming from a professional. It's to me, I do not give people second chances when it involves others that could be harmed by this person. No, I would not give them another chance. If they have proven that they've overstepped boundaries, they know better. That's how I feel. I feel, especially as a professional, you know better. You should not overstep anyone's boundaries. You should not take advantage of people. But I do feel that there has to be an open communication of anyone who's involved, which I know is more difficult in a group situation.
Sure.
And I've seen that happen before where things have been done in a group setting, and maybe it's someone I knew on a private level where I'm like, oh my God, that person, there's one person in the community that has, it's called now dissociative identity disorder.
Ooh.
So they had BPD and they had it extreme. And there were certain things that triggered this person. And while I was a monitor at a group gathering, this person was participating in an act that triggered them to have flashbacks.
Oh.
And it was something that I was, knowing the person personally, I kind of stepped in, and I actually, the dom that was involved, who I'm very good friends with, I was like, hey, can I talk to you for a minute? And and it went, her not knowing, that was a different situation. She did not have any prior knowledge of this person. But I do not give second chances when it has to do with basically violating someone else.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Especially safety. Safety is, safe, calm, cool.
Yeah.
So, catnip. That question: can people? I've seen people, cause issues. It's not just like any. There's always somebody who's going to be at a party. Someone's always going to come to a party that's going to try to ruin it. You know what I mean? Some people redeem themselves. I used to be a drug addict and an alcoholic. I don't do it anymore. You know what I mean? People change time. So let me ask you this: for people, not just at the manor, in general, can people come back from like being shunned or anything like that, or just if they do something, if they mess up, can they ever return?
I think it depends upon what the issue is. I mean, if somebody, raped someone, no, like, I'm sorry, I don't think that's gonna be something we can turn our back on, and be like, oh, they've, changed. If someone, like the individual, like I was. Yeah, like if like the individual who like interrupted the scene because they thought somebody was in distress, maybe did that one or two other times and then was spoken to and showed that they've gone to like different classes, they're showing the ability to change and do better, then like second chances are options. But like I don't think everyone always deserves a second. I hate to say that, but like I said, there's some serious violations that just would lead to me believing that a person shouldn't be around other people like that, especially in this situation. But I think there should be just like in our justice system, there should be restorative justice. People should be allowed to rehabilitate for certain incidences. It's just what each community does that deems to show that. And I think the biggest issue I find with the situation is that when people go cross state communities and you don't know, like as people in New Jersey, like we don't know if somebody's coming from, Washington, like I don't know who to connect
style
with there. Yeah, I don't know who to connect with there to see, like, is this a consent violator? Like, am I going to, like, Google every BDSM club in Washington State and then ask,
that goes to the next question. That goes to the next question. Is de-escalation in dungeons, is it different in different regions? Like, New Jersey's got a style, right? New York has a style. Portland, Oregon has a style. So does Tempe, Arizona, right? So do you think that has an effect, like the region and the because like Mr. Schari, we were talking yesterday, what we consider a consent violation is not a consent may not be a consent violation in Ohio. You know what I mean? Legally it's not. It's different in every state. So in every dungeon it must be different too, right? How do we deal with that? Any suggestions from anybody?
I've played on both coasts, more briefly on the East Coast, but most of my experience has been on the West Coast. And yeah, Nick, it definitely is that different styles and different feel. And my experience in the New England area has definitely been more like kind of strict and severe and more like, I think there's more I don't say harshness, but there's more you could describe the scene as kind of pretty hardcore basically, or whatever. I think there is more also, like, not only this is my impression, no, I feel like not only is there more of an expectation of everybody to know what the hell is going on doms and subs both, but there also is the with that, I think there feels like more of an expectation for everybody to hold up their end of the business. I do feel like West Coast is a little more, kind of feely and so on, and there's more and these are generalizations, but there is more, to me, here, kind of interpersonal compassion, I guess you could call it, where it is kind of more see, I don't want to call it coddling, because that's not, I feel like that's giving the wrong connotation. You know what I'm talking about, though.
Yeah.
Kind of, you like,
Stan
yeah,
Vladimir.
I know what you mean.
Stan Vladimir pipes in as how he reworded my question, basically. How can someone redeem themselves? But Catnip, this is for you, Catnip. And I think Mistress Schari, I'm curious what Mistress Schari's answer would be to your answer, or your response to your answer. So this is the Stan question. Catnip, if you could have any superpower, what would it be, and how would you use it in your kinky life? I'm gonna take myself out of there so you could have full attention on you.
Oh, don't do that, Nick. I don't know. I guess, I mean, a silly superpower would be obviously to like talk to cats and like, I don't know, control cats, kind of like Catwoman. I don't know. I would totally do that. And I just want to do that. So that wouldn't really be a kinky lifestyle superpower, but
kind of kitten play is a thing, right?
Yeah. I guess, I don't know. I'm a healer, so I would want to be able to like
heal,
some type of healing, superpower, or
Could
like
you imagine
managing, like getting someone through. I don't want to take. I think pain and emotions are essential to life.
Yeah,
but I want to be able to help somebody through that in the easiest, most like painless way as possible. So like I would want to be able to do that, like, and in the kink world, I would do that in the way of like, when for marginalized communities, I'm a big in the LGBTQ community. I do a lot of like, trainings on that. So really just kind of like utilizing like knowledge and that as a power to like make a difference. I don't know. It sounds kind of cheesy.
Stan Vladimir says that would be a cool aftercare power. That's what now I'm thinking, my imagination works.
Oh yeah, the cats.
Everyone's at the manor. They just have, oh yeah. but if you had like aftercare power, right? Everyone at the dungeon, they're all bruised up, blood play, electric play, and all you have to do is just lay your Catnip just lays their hands on them right before they leave the door. So they're all like, and then they lay their hand, they're all healed. All the bruises.
There's no drugs.
But then
you get wax on, wax off.
Yeah, wax off. Some people want the bruises. Some people want the bruises. So they can go out the back door.
They can keep the bruises. It just won't hurt.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Oh, hey, I love that. But also too, like, and I like, I think pros tend to play with an audience that's a little bit more towards retirement age or something like that. So you get sore backs, sore knees, creaky shoulders, that kind of thing. And that would be super cool to before and after a session be like, all right, lay my healing hands on, and who doesn't want a more supple back and more springy knees, that kind of thing. So yeah, if you could target your healing powers and be like, all right, I'm going to send this energy to this specific area of the body. Oh my God. Right. That would be like, you'd have to like fly around the world, like, proselytizing.
So Catnip, you were talking about pet life and how some people like they'll RSVP for, just to intimidate, which is a douche canoe move, straight up. Anyone who does that is they're gonna miss out on everything cool and die angry. Anyway, so how does social media play
100%.
a factor? How does social media play a factor in de-escalating situations at the dungeon? Ooh. Not only for the future, in the moment, whatever.
Ooh. I don't know. I mean, being that we are in an age of technology, I think one thing that social media or like technology that helps with de-escalation or post de-escalation or post scene is that it makes people much more available to each other to check in.
Yeah.
But then there is, you know, the flip side, and something you see often in like adolescents and kids with the, you know, bullying, and, you know, somebody had a bad experience at so-and-so party, so they decide to make a FetLife post and call X, Y, and Z out, you know, which then causes a whole other issue. But within de-escalation and, you know, that kind of stuff, I think it's really great for post scene, like post party. So like a couple of days later for the check-in. Some people also might use it, you know, as a de-escalation. Like I know for me, like I'm super much always on my phone. Like you see, like I'm like ADD, so like I'm fiddling. I'm not really doing anything on it. But like you got music on your technology, you know, like maybe somebody coming out of a hard scene might want to watch some videos of puppies, you know, like there are the ability to utilize social media in that way.
I do at the Manor.
I don't think social media
I bring
has
up my phone and just
big
show
factor,
shit to people just to de-escalate,
Yeah.
calm shit down, change the subject.
Sometimes you got to just change the subject. So in that way, yeah, totally. But I don't think like in a general way does social media have like a big role in de-escalation, at least at the time of de-escalation.
Yeah. Shout out to Mistress Schari. I'm on the couch at the Manor, and we're talking up. And one of the questions we were talking about is what happens when someone comes up to you and they think there's a consent violation. You always have these people who they think they know it all. They've been around. They've been to a munch before. They've seen a dominatrix in television. You know what I mean? They know. They've read, right? So they know better. And they want to tell you, the person who runs the dungeon, that they think whatever person is doing something wrong when they're not. So how do you handle that?
I feel like do I just call you Anna? I didn't even ask.
Yeah.
Anna.
Yeah.
I feel like you have something to say for that one. Just by your reaction.
Me? Oh,
yeah.
Actually, I was like, I don't know. Well, you know, I would start to break it down. What exactly happened? You know, what exactly happened? What alarmed you? What's really going on? And you know, you see, you've seen this with like kind of more things like takedowns or more psychologically oriented things where it's like what you see from the outside is they think something's going wrong, but it's not. What you see from the outside is like, oh man, this looks so much more violent or something like that. Then I should, you know, one thing is like, have you talked to, you know, if I'm not a DM, have you talked to the DMs? Do you know what they actually, you know, discussed or something? Because people do that. Oh, you know, he's like, you know, taking her down, blah, blah, and she's kicking and squealing and whatever. And, you know, whatever. It's like, okay. You know, do you know these people? What exactly is alarming you about this? And they're like, oh, well, it just seems really violent. Okay. How familiar are you with, you know, with them and with the dynamic? You know, trying to get them to basically check themselves and be like, all right, what fits your understanding does not necessarily apply to anybody else. You can't make that blanket judgment. You know, it would be great if I happened to know those people involved and be like, no, like they're a solid couple. They've been, you know, they play really hard. They've been doing this for a while, et cetera, et cetera. If I don't know those people, then, you know, if I were like DMing or something like that, then I would check with other people and be like, hey, do you know them? Do you know, whatever. And I think Philly, like, usually what happens is like somebody knows them and somebody will be able to be like, yeah, no, it's fine. You know, this is part of their milieu. And at that point, it's also an education point to be like, look, you know, what you know is maybe safe and consensual. You know, maybe what you know is a more rigid framework but kind of like trying to explain more of like they have agreed on personal acknowledgement and personal responsibility for the consent and the boundaries and so on and so forth. And I'd be like, oh, hang back a second, let me see what's going on. And you can see, and I would point out, like, look, you can see like there's a difference between play distress and actual distress, and sometimes it is really hard to tell, but if something is really kind of going on, and kind of maybe hang out for a second, and then like if you really feel like you need to do the whole little tap on the shoulders and be like, okay.
So catnip, when someone comes up to you, like, I don't want to say a kink snob, but they kind of got the kink snobby type, thing. I mean, I'm not a kink snob, so you don't have to shut me down, but do you shut them down, be like, you don't know shit? Like, motherfucker, like, do you seriously, do you say that? Like, what? You don't, do you? But
I was gonna say, Nick, can you honestly see me responding that way?
No, that'd be so great. I would love to see that so much.
Oh my god, right?
Yeah, but what do you?
No,
what do you
I'm
do?
a little bit more
You get
passive
snobs.
aggressive.
Yeah,
I'm
you
a little
get
bit more
snobs.
passive aggressive. I think luckily being the submissive, I can always be like, oh, not my problem, go to Mistress Schari. She definitely has more of that chutzpah of like, willing to, I say how it is, but like, again, I'm not a big person for conflict. So like, I try to tread easily. I'm very conscious of, and I'm very I try to live my life very trauma-informed, focused. So, I'm not saying she doesn't, but I'm just saying like we're also two very different generations. Like I'm a millennial, she's Gen X, so like that comes into a big play of how we interact with other people.
That's funny.
But oftentimes, if I'm not getting through to the person with my calm kind of like chill vibe, then yes, I will send them to Mistress Schari and be like, maybe she can explain it to you in a way you will understand it. Because
that brings up a next situation, the age difference. So last night we were at the manor. I'm in a French maid outfit, massaging Sunshine's feet, and there are a lot of people like doing other stuff, other scenes all around us, and I felt old because a lot of people, everyone's all beautiful and young and everything like that.
It was a very young crowd last night.
It was a very young crowd, but like, and they're awesome. They're awesome though. What I'm wondering is there, when it comes to de-escalation though, of any sort? Don't get me wrong, I felt old, but I felt a fucking classy, a good old, an elegant old. And if you're gonna be old, I'm gonna be an elegant old, right? So let's back de-escalation. Right? Does age play a factor? The different in when it comes to these parties? I mean, you de-escalate an older person than you do differently than a younger person, don't you? So how does age come into play with these?
I mean, I think so. I think the biggest difference is how we were raised. Like some generations were raised not to kind of like fake it till you make it, and move on and like don't deal with your emotions and like kind of like that. Like, but beyond generational, it's gonna always be individual because of how we are each raised. But I would say like if you took myself and Mistress Schari, like we're two very different people emotionally, and like she would be de-escalated a lot differently than I would be de-escalated. I definitely need more like emotionality and not necessarily coddling, but like empathy. And she wants you to just tell it to her and like very straightforward, very blunt. So I think in general, unless you know the person, you should just go in there with like a very calm demeanor. But like if you know the people, you work towards their individual. But
save, calm, and cool. It's the way to go for everything.
Yeah.
Talking to Mistress Schari, she suggested, it might have been you, Catnip, but this came up. in my notes. Consent violation versus consent regret. Please explain what this is all about.
Oh, yeah. So we had an instance where we were talking to somebody and they were being accused of a consent violation. And after reading the other people's like discussion of what happened, talking about it, it came across as more of a consent regret. So it was like the person agreed to do something and then later on was not happy that they agreed to it. So like they never said no. So consent was never actually, violated. So like, a consent violation being like, somebody doing something against your will, knowledge, and all that. A consent regret is like, oh, I consented to this, but I really didn't want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And like, and kind of like, does your own personal feelings about what you did necessarily make that other person is a predator or, an abuser?
Let me ask you this.
And something I talk about is a lot is like being accountable. And this is really the space, making yourself accountable versus like just going in there and assuming everybody knows how you're going to feel about a situation, because I have to take in stock how I react from my own feelings. There was another person who like happened to walk, like I've walked, or Mistress Schari has walked into dungeons where they're doing fire play. That's a red for her. Is that a consent violation? No, because you are taking accountability that I know I'm going to be walking into a situation that can possibly trigger me. So I think that's kind of like, you might regret doing the situation, but that doesn't mean you were necessarily, unless you were violated different ways. But just you say yes and you never say no. The enthusiastic yes is, you can have that as a question, but I don't know. I think it's such a blurry area, but I think there are definitely consent regrets.
Yeah.
Anna, the bussy boss. When you peg someone for the first time, you've been doing it for years. You've been pegging a long time. You're the bussy boss. You don't get to the boss without experience. So how do you deal with consent regret from pegging? Because there's a lot of, I'm sure there's like, oh my God, what did I do?
Yeah, it's a sensitive area. Yeah.
It's a sensitive area. That's the quote for the next show.
Especially, when it comes to like, I like to be able to film content when somebody's okay with it. And that's a huge, like, you need to be really careful about consent there. Cause once you put that shit up, so I'm very like, are you sure? But yeah, if somebody is, regretting or something afterwards, I take it, as with any kind of de-escalation, I take it into the details, like kind of what are you feeling, but how are you feeling about this? Like I try to get to the root of like, why are you in this space right now? What are you exactly like regretting? Is it because
what do they say? What do they regret so much after they've just been pegged by the bussy boss? Nothing.
Oh yeah, right. An emptiness in their soul that they want to fill again. But it is, it does mess with people's self-image sometimes. Especially if they have if they're kind of a little more, I don't say hidebound, but it involves a vulnerability that if somebody is not really comfortable or flexible with them exercising their own vulnerability, it can come in as a shock later where they're like, I can't, not in a good way, but I can't believe I let you do that to me. What does this mean about me? I feel these feelings and I don't know where to
I paid you money.
Yeah, exactly. Right? And it's like, it becomes this, I don't know where to put my feelings. And so then it becomes like, okay, not only what are you feeling, but like teaching them to create a container around this experience, around their responses to it, where putting that kind of in its place, like, look, you're still the same person that you were before this happened. And this experience is like, you know, it's kind of like travel to another country, or, you know, going, you know, something like that, where it is a new experience and it makes you feel something different than you felt before. But you can put that on your resume, or you can put that in your experience list or whatever in your life. And it
You can
doesn't.
put pegging on your resume now. It is a key word. It'll come
Well,
up.
you know, it's very
You know,
important.
here for a dumb joke. For a dumb joke, everybody go to Indeed. If you search for jobs, right, and instead of the word shift, just put the word shit, SHIT. You'll get a dumb laugh. 6 to 8 hour long. You know what's all available? All like on Sundays. You know, it's the dumbest spelling. Anyway, let's talk to Mrs. Claudia.
So
In a different state, there are different laws. So there's consent violation versus consent regret, but there's also the criminal aspect also. So first of all, consent regret. How do you deal with consent regret and versus consent violation?
So I'm kind of going through this at this very moment.
Really?
Yeah. So yesterday, I have a very long time client. He's a young man. I have been seeing him for probably at least 5 years. And, you know, we start off our sessions as, hey, how you been? Like, what have you been up to? Kind of like we're just buddies. And I said, you know, and we're pretty close, and we're, you know, like he adopted a dog from me and things like, you know, like we're close. And so I said, is there anything that, you know, you want to try or whatever? And we were joking. And I said, well, what if I had someone randomly sneak in and suck your cock? Would you be okay with that? And he's like, yeah, I'll try it. Well, I don't think he really thought I was going to do it. So I had this other person that constantly, are you available? Are you available? Are you available? And he's a nice guy too. When I make him do horrific things, and he wants me to video them. He wants me to like post it all over the internet. There's like some weird website where you could post blackmail stuff, and you know, he has a pretty high profile job. I don't really want to do that to him, even though at the moment he really wants me to. And he actually has had other mistresses do it. So make a long story short, he kept texting me, are you available? And I'm like, no. So finally I said, yeah, I'm available. Come over here because you're going to suck cock. So and I told him I'm hungry. So bring me some food. And so, cause I wanted to eat while I watched the show. So unfortunately, he didn't have time to whatever. So I put a hood over the young man. I completely immobilized him. So he was really tied down. He could not move at all. And I had the other person come in and perform the act. And I could tell, and then I made the other person leave and go get me food. So I could tell when all was done, you know, I could tell he was a little bit kind of like taken aback. And so I said, hey, you know, why don't you take a shower and, you know, get dressed, and, you know, here's a cold water, whatever. And so he did, and he left. And then the other person came back with my food, and then, you know, whatever. So I told, later on, I get a text message, and I'm very close with my regulars. I'm very close. I mean, they can text me whenever they can, you know, we're like, it's more than just sessions. So he texted me probably maybe like 2 hours later, and he says, I don't think I want to do that again. And so I'm kind of letting him kind of decompress. So I was like, okay, no problem, you know.
I wouldn't be surprised if in a month or so he's talking about it, doing it again.
Do it again, yeah.
Yeah, but I think the initial shock of, oh my God, what did I just do? What did I just allow? You know, I completely have no idea who did that to me. And, you know, I think that it was something that he didn't expect that it would happen, but he also didn't expect his reaction.
Yeah. Yeah.
So-
And you
But
know,
you were open and consent. It was consensual, the whole thing. I mean, like,
right,
you were
but is that
upfront about
considered consensual regret? Like he regretted giving me the consent to do that, and I did it. I don't think he thought I would.
he knows not to underestimate you in the future.
Yeah, I mean, he knows me. He knows me. And it's funny because when you say that I am from the East Coast, I am from the Boston area, and
Oh,
yeah. So
yeah.
when I came to Arizona has more of like people watch too much porn with BDSM in it kind of flair, and it
Yeah.
freaked me out when I first came here.
Mhm.
There was a lot of consent. There was a lot of violations on my limits, and I was not able to I don't tolerate it. I mean,
Yeah.
I put them in their place. However, I was working at a professional facility that, like had women that monitor the clients that come in, and they'll say, oh, so and so wants you to wear a garter with no underwear, and it's a face sitting session. And I'm like, yeah, no.
Sorry.
Sorry, bud. Like I don't like there's certain things that I'm super respectful of, like my regulars and my subs. They will tell you I'm a very compassionate and kind and loving person, as well as I do my thing, but
an
I
absolutely
always
brutal dominatrix. Like
I can
the stuff
be
you tell me.
I can be, but the thing is that to me, it's all about what is consent.
Yes.
What is pushing limits? There has to be that open communication. When you're in a relationship with this person, whether it's a one time for 2 hours or whether it's for 10 years, it's like a relationship, and there has to be that like flow dynamic of respect on both ends. And I think that a lot of people kind of forget that someone is gifting them control to you. It's the yin yang, it's a balance. And these people, we wouldn't have that flow dynamic if it wasn't for them. And it's kind of like that energy exchange where, you really have to, for me, like, I really like to know who I'm with. I don't want to overstep my boundaries. I care about the people. And, I this one I'm gonna probably reach out to him tonight and be like, hey, how you doing? Because I care. And to me that was normal. Like I do stuff like that all the time, but for him, he had never done that before. So now I have to give him the aftercare of, okay, he's never done that before. Is he questioning, what did I do? Do I like this now? Am I this way now? Like I'm sure he's probably asking a million questions to himself right now. I could probably picture him.
Yeah.
Catnip, how do you deal with consent regret in the dungeon?
I mean, I think it's very similar to, what both of them said. Like you want to figure out, you have that conversation, you want to figure out what is behind it, like where that person's coming from. Why do you feel why are you feeling that way? What would you like to do with the situation? How would you like the situation to end? We haven't had anything like that happen specifically in in our dungeon that we've dealt with, but like I said, we were dealing with a friend who was dealing with it. And basically for the person who was being accused, we were like, you have to stick up for yourself at the same time, because everything that the people are saying on the is all our friends saying hi to each other I'm sorry. I'm just like, I'm seeing like Michelle, Sunshine, Sestra, all the people, like the people who were, doing the accusing. All their writings showed one thing that was not I mean, a typical consent violation. So that, we suggested to the other person, like, get to the bottom of it, like talk to, they were spewing the person's name on FetLife and stuff like that. Like, so there is a point where then it becomes, is it harassment? Like your consent. But like, I would say you just handle it very similarly. And then once you find out, you do your due diligence, you do your investigation, and you deem this to be maybe more of a consent regret than a violation. You provide the person with resources. You provide the person with names or numbers of, the proper, professionals if they want. And if it comes to the point where, like, bless you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bless you.
In our case, like how we do the separating of coming to play parties, that might be what ultimately is the decision. Like, hey, this person didn't necessarily do anything, but we'll make sure that they're not in the same space as you.
We have a question. Michelle S. Is doing something without saying yes or no, then consent regret?
Can I want to say something about
Sure.
what I said previously. So first of all, when Mistress Claudia was talking about, doing somebody saying that, hey, do a face sitting session, whatever. I'm not trying to, like, everybody has their own thing. I'm not trying to shame any sex workers of any kind for doing face sitting, whatever. But the assumption of somebody else's consent is another topic entirely. And, and Dom's consent, is just as valid and just as important as a sub's consent. And I will say something about people thinking that they have to do something or that it's good to do something or whatever, because, like Mistress Claudia said, they've been watching porn, or they think that when you're a sub, this is what you do, or when you're a dom, this is what they need to do to you, or something like that. And, when somebody has regret or something, that is something that I find does play in, is these cardboard cutout preconceptions of, if you're truly submissive, you're going to suck some dick, or you're going to do this.
And it's scene. Like, you're the architect of your scene.
Yeah.
Right. You create the rules. That's why there's negotiation.
And and I think this is where it comes in sometimes with the disruption of how they see themselves, because they want to be a great sub, or whatever. And they're thinking that, I don't like this thing, so I'm not really submissive, or I'm not, doing what a sub does, or something like that. And so that's something that I really get into with them is, what does this mean to you? You can go to Germany once and you're not a German. You can go to Germany 10 times and you're not a German. What you do is, like, your expression is unique to you. There is no one size fits all. You don't need to put yourself in this box where just because somebody else does it and it's supposed to, and it sounds cool to you, doesn't mean it's right for you. And it means nothing about whether or not you're submissive, whether or not you can consider yourself to be a real kinkster or something. That, don't listen to anybody else telling you how right or valid you are, or wrong or invalid you are for not doing a certain thing. That's not for anybody else to judge. Nobody else is fucking business.
Catnip.
Yes.
All right. Everybody in the kink community gets triggered by something. I mean, we got triggered by something to get into the kink community, if you think about it. But we're triggered. We're emotional people. And some people, like you said, fire is the trigger for some people. Knives, blood. I know some people who you can't even say the word vomit, or they will, like, they'll turn this podcast off right now. Probably did. So
we're moist.
What do you do when somebody, you can't talk, like, when someone's triggered, you can't, like, calm down and say, hi, tell me about your feelings. No, they could do something. They could, they're either crying or they're yelling or they're shaking or something like that. You have to live in the moment. A calm voice helps, but time is the factor. So what do you do? How do you de-escalate a situation when someone is intensely triggered, Catnip?
I mean, again, there's, like, the base of stuff that you could do, that, like, is kind of, like, universal. So, like, the soothing words, offering space, kind of, like, providing water, stuff that happened, like could possibly help everybody. But because everybody's so different, like it really just depends upon the individual. And that's why like pre-scene negotiation is really important to include, like, what is your emotional needs for when something like this happens, like having that conversation, checking in with yourself, like, have I checked in with how I'm feeling today? Did anything earlier in the day happen that might come up later? Am I feeling regulated? Do I know what could possibly come up into this scene, and then having that communication with your partner, your emotional needs and boundaries, discussing those safe words. What happens if you go nonverbal? A lot of people go nonverbal, so trying to force somebody who's nonverbal to talk is kind of useless. So, providing them with, what we do, like if somebody's gagged, you might give them like a dog toy that squeaks for red or something. You might give them something similar to at least so that they can answer a yes or no. Simple. You want to do simple questions, simple yes or no questions specifically for people who go to nonverbal, because then they can do a simple gesture to like explain that. I'd say you want to have a support plan. So if you are triggered, like a lot of this is really just knowing yourself and knowing how to communicate your own emotional needs to the person that you're with. A DM can only do so much in these cases because they don't know you on a personal level. They don't know, that some people might think touching you on the shoulder is going to calm you or soothe you, but touching somebody on the shoulder can actually trigger like being touched. So like really just kind of going to the situation, maybe knowing some standard grounding techniques. Like there's the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 sensory grounding technique. It's like you name 5 things you see, 4 things you hear, 3 things, so on and so forth. Knowing some standard like breathing techniques or guided breath work you can use. Having maybe fidget items with you as a DM that like you can offer the person. So it really, I mean, like, I don't think it's a one size fits all answer, unfortunately, because we are so different.
If I might add.
Yeah. What do you do when someone's triggered, Hannah?
So yeah, I was going to say like, when somebody's triggered, they are feeling fear from being out of control. Basically, I think that's a big thing. They are regressing into a very intensely personal state. They're not connecting with what's around them. Again, what Catnip just said about grounding is very important. Validating that it's okay to feel overwhelmed without going into, oh, that was really terrible, wasn't it? Oh, you should feel so upset. It'd be like, okay, you have dignity, you have control. You can control your environment. Nothing is attacking you right now, regrounding and so on. But again, like I said, like not going into this, like, oh, not panicking, not treating it like something that needs to be panicked about, but just a calm, like join a more calm emotional state, kind of pulling them back, blankies or whatever, that kind of thing. But yeah, soothing the body is a big one. And like Catnip said, like breaking that spiral, like how can you reconnect with your immediate environment and break that
break the spiral, that cycle, because it's a cycle that just keeps on ruminating. You get into it. It's like depression, or you ruminate on something. So okay, we're gonna end it. Miss Claudia, you still there? All right, we're gonna end it. So if there's one de-escalation technique or phrase that you wish everybody in the dungeon knew or used consistently, Anna Valentina, let's start with you.
Oh, you're gonna start with me?
Okay. Yes, Mistress Claudia. Let's see if Mistress Claudia's back. She should be coming back soon. But yes, let's start with you. One de-escalation technique or phrase.
I would say just a simple like a simple like, you know, making not touching them necessarily, but just a simple like calm, respectful tone of voice, like, hey, you know, how's how's it going? How are you feel like I know how are you feeling, whatever. But it's more about how you say it. It's, you know, to me, because there is no like one size fits all necessarily, depending on where they are, but it's more about the approach. It's more about the, okay, you know, I'm a calm, strong presence. You can trust me, you know, like getting that kind of like, okay, you know, being solid and you're not asking anything first about like, do you need me to get somebody, or you know, that's gonna, you know, freak somebody out even more. But just, hey, I'm here for you. Do you need help? How are you feeling? You know, something like that, like doing kind of a check-in. You
The
have to kind of
a general attitude, a general energy of it. I think that really
absolutely,
helps.
yeah,
You know,
absolutely. Awareness
added,
and
yeah,
connection and respect. Yeah.
yeah. Be in the moment. Catnip, if there's what's one de-escalation technique or phrase you wish everyone in the dungeon knew?
I think similar to Anna saying, you know, coming in there, you know, reassuring and validating the person that you're there. But then I also think going into that, I find if it's possible, depending upon the person, obviously, and like reading the room, but like I find starting the conversation was like, hey, do you need to vent? Do you need advice? Do you need space? Like, because sometimes you might go in there and just want to like spew all your like awesome skills on them, and really all they want you to do is just sit there with them. You know,
Great.
so
very good
really
point.
You know, putting it out there, like what, and sometimes you can't just ask, what do you need? Because when you're in that vulnerable state,
Yeah.
you don't know how to say what you need. So giving them those concrete options of, do you need a vent? Do you need advice? Do you need space? You can add others. You know, really, I find to be a good starting point after that initial like calm encounter. Hi, I'm here for you.
Fantastic point. You're right. You're absolutely so right. Like not rushing in, being like, you have a problem that I want to fix, but you're absolutely right. Being like, what you tell me, what you need from me, and I'm here for you. That is like the most awesome, advice I would,
Thank you very, very much, both of you. We did it. We de-escalated the situation. There's going to be peace in the kink community because of you.
Amazing.
I'm just gonna
yes.
It's gonna be. Now we just got to work on the rest of the world.
I was gonna say, now we're just gonna like go into, you know, all the spots of conflict. Be like, all right, you guys. All right, I'm here for you.
I do have to plug this. Get 15% off all inventory at Locked in Lust. Chastity devices. They're fun. Nice. Holy moly. We've been having fun with this. I'm thinking of a phrase. First of all, this is a game. Squirt in seconds. Yeah. Squirt in seconds. Anna, you love it. You were talking about before. I just want a hole in a pole, right? That's it. Chastity device I can't show it on the thing, but the chastity device goes under here. He's wearing it. He's there, and you could totally ignore it right in front of him, and you could have fun with it. Squirt in seconds. But here, this is a game. They called it the crotch rocket. That's whatever you can call it that name. But YKF, we kink everything out. There's a nickname. So what's a better name? What's a cool name that we could give? We could talk about the crotch rocket by Locked in Lust, and you can get 15% off all Locked in Lust. But you could always, what would you call it, Pussy Boss?
Well, you just said the hole in pole, which I think is just, come on, man. It's right there. It's, you know, that's what you need. That's all you need, you know. And you know what? That would boost sales because people would be like, what? Okay, I gotta try this one.
I'm telling you, this is great. I mean, I I'm genuine. If I don't like something, I'll tell you. This is we're having a lot of fun with that. Anna Valentina, how can we get in touch with you? How can we support you? You're the pussy boss. Tell us what to do.
So the primary way I want people to find me is on Nightflirt, NITEFLIRT. Find me, Anna Valentina, because that's my phone platform. You want to talk to me, I know you do. So new customers get 3 minutes free, by the way. Otherwise, website, annavalentina.com. And then like Twitter, which I don't really use, Anna Valentina. Instagram, Ms. Anna Valentina. FetLife, Anna Valentina. You can find me all over the place. Just, Google me. But yeah, I would love to talk to some folks. I obviously, I love discussing and being here and fantasizing and all kinds of stuff. I'm born
You're
to talk
fun
about
to
fetish.
talk to, Anna. You're
Thank
very
you.
fun to talk to.
Thanks.
Catnip. Please go to patreon.com/YKF. Yes. Oh, and also this is very important. Stan Vladimir, the person who does all the art, the art director for YKF, he needs a new computer. And guess what? I need a new computer. If I don't have a new computer, computer. And Catnip needs a new computer. And you know what? All of us need a new computer.
I need a new computer too.
Please
Honestly.
go to Patreon. And
I just started a new graduate program.
Ooh, congratulations, condolences.
Yeah.
We hear that? People get education. Get an education. Thank you for letting us know that.
I'm in school again too, man. It is a wild, wild thing.
Yes.
Never stop learning though. I tell you, it's one of the best. It's really hard, but it's one of the best challenges that you can do for yourself, because it is really investing in yourself. It's investing in yourself. So yeah, I highly applaud it. Yeah.
And Catnip, how can we get in touch with you? These are parties that you throw. Last night was the Wicked Sing Along movie night.
No, our Wicked Sing Along movie night is this coming Friday.
Oh,
last night was our
Wicked
Wickedly Pride. I'm a big Broadway fanatic, and so is Mistress Schari, and I'm like obsessed with Wicked, so it just made sense. But if you want to get in touch with me, I am on FetLife, Catnip_boy, BOI. Otherwise, if you want to get in touch with Mischief Matters, which you can also get in touch with me through, we're Mischief_Matters on FetLife, mischiefmatters.com. We do our ticket sales through Forbidden Tickets. We were on Instagram and all those things, but the state of social media is kind of wonky, so we're just kind of sticking to one platform. We also have our own podcast radio show.
Yes, you are the co-host.
We do it. I am the co-host of that, and that is Mischief Radio. You can find that at artistfirst.com. And we go live every third Tuesday, but then you can also go onto the website after and listen to it post show. So
nice.
And we talk, Nick's been on it a bunch of times. These are all some of our, I think last week, what did we talk about last week? Oh, collaring ceremonies. We talked about, sometimes we talk Broadway.
We did a show when 420 when marijuana was legalized in New Jersey as for recreational usage. And I just got out of a liver transplant. I can't even imagine what a mess that I've been. I was on that show because all my cells are my synapses are firing, and it's the first time it's in our project. This whole thing's in our project anyway. Shout out, please. Mischief Manor is something very symbolic of life, of the Kink community, of everything, and the fact that they did it themselves, and it's completely organic, and it really stems from something decent and good. We're kinky as can be, we're imaginative as can be, but we're also solidly decent. And that is so comforting that there's a place There's a place to do that. And I actually, when I go there, I feel safe because of catnip. Seriously, because of the atmosphere, and because Mr. Schari and catnip, you want to, when you go there, it is a BDSM sex dungeon, but you want to do good. You want to be, if you drop something, you want to pick it up and put it in the garbage. You know what I mean? It's that kind of attitude. You know what I mean? You don't want to make a mess. You want to make sure your shoes aren't dirty. You know, you look good. It's a great atmosphere, and this could be set up all over the world. And they are set up all over the world. You know what I mean? And nowadays, more than ever, I think that kind of energy, that kind of organization, that's what's going to have us survive. That's what's going to make the kinky community survive. So thank you for your time, for your energy, and for your love, all of you. I can say this on behalf of Mistress Claudia. Thank you, and I hope Daisy, the dog, the dominatrix dog, is all right. So
Triple D.
ladies and gentlemen, read a book. Read a book. Written word is very important. Got me a liver transplant. It got me to the manor. Got me to this moment right now. Friends is all about dealing with grief and loss through the kink community, and how the kink community saved my life. And there's de-escalation in there. That's at Bunches. Also, a love story. The coolest way to kill yourself. No one kills himself in the book. It's a metaphor. Anyway, it's going to be a great week. It's time to go. I'm talking too much. I love all of you. Thank you. Be cool. Be kind.
Thank you, Nick.
An open mind. Take care. Bye.
Thanks, Nick. Always good.